This video describes the process of carcinogenesis. So means cancer, genesis means the beginning, development, and progression of. So this is the progression of cancer. As described in a previous video, something occurs in the cell where it undergoes a form of cellular adaptation, where when a cell's genetic components in the DNA is exposed to some sort of a mutation, a carcinogen which causes a mutation. This cell, when it becomes old and divides, and the cells that become the daughter cells from this cell don't quite look just like the parent cell. It's becoming more abnormal, and it goes along from it'll go along from hyperplasia, it may go to dysplasia, metaplasia, and then finally into a neoplastic cell, a completely new type of cell, where this cell doesn't look anything like the parent cell in which it came from. It has now gone to the point where it doesn't behave like normal cells, and now this is considered a malignant neoplasm. So we need to talk about different characteristics of malignant neoplastic growth. So neoplastic growth, certain elements of those include these grow autonomously and very fast-paced. So very fast-paced, autonomous, meaning that they grow to the toot of their own horn. Normal cells have their own inherent DNA that tells them when to stop growing and to be fully differentiated, meaning that they are of a totally mature cell that functions the way that they should. These neoplastic cells are completely undifferentiated, which is seen in a different video, but that means that they don't mean any function. They don't mean any function that makes them the body. They are completely not functioning as far as doing something purposefully for the body. They ignore contact inhibition, meaning that when they brush up against normal cells, they don't care that they are brushing up against normal cells, right? Normal cells brush up against them and say, okay, we don't need to produce any more cells because we are whole, so we'll just stop. Cancer cells ignore that, and they continue to grow autonomously and fast-paced, and they ignore those contact inhibition signals. However, they are part of our normal cells, right? So they have this uncanny ability to create their own blood vessels to give them nutrients so they can grow even larger. And that new formation of cells is called angiogenesis, or formation or creation and development of vessels. So it will give itself more blood supply, right? It has increased need for oxygen, so it is thirstier for nutrients than others. So what it does is it will invade other spaces. So along paths of least resistance, it will grow this haphazard structure, which is another element, haphazard. And that's where it grows these crab-like manifestations which move along the paths of least resistance. And as it robs the cell's nutrients, it kills those cells, rendering functionality destroyed around this, weakens the cells, and then it moves along, becoming larger and larger as it goes. And the last bit is besides this, so we have invasion, which is invasion of other tissues and destroying cells around it. And then when it becomes a later stage, it does something called metastasis, where it metastasizes. And, metastasis. All right, so metastasis occurs so we're supposing that this is epithelial tissue, which is where carcinomas come from, which are the most common types of cancers. Epithelial tissues and carcinomas that come from tend to metastasize more readily through the lymphatic system. So this is a lymphatic vessel, and lymphatic vessels will lead back to a lymph node, and these are housing white blood cells and all sorts of great immune system function that are constantly filtering our blood, trying to filter out toxins and pathogens and destroy them, right? So parts of this cancer will slough off into this lymphatic vessel and travel to the nearest lymph node, where it will be promptly met with white blood cells, destroyed, and taken out of the equation. But more are coming, and pretty soon, after enough of these slough off, they overrun this lymph node to the point where now the lymph node is no longer functioning, and cancer cells can now pass and move on to the next lymph node in the line. If we have a person's body that we're looking at, a person has hundreds, 600, I believe, in the 600 lymph nodes in their body. And they're all around the central, right? If a cancer is in the pancreas, it may travel up this lymph node a few times and go past until it reaches the heart, into the duct that empties into the venous side of the heart, and then it can bypass and then metastasize to faraway sites after it reaches the blood system. That is essentially how cancer travels, and that is how it results in metastasis. Occasionally, how they determine metastasis and how far it has spread is, if they determine that it might be pancreatic cancer, they will test and maybe do biopsies on nearby lymph nodes to see how far it has spread. And they may remove those lymph nodes, and it may end up keeping it from metastasizing to far sites before it has a chance to spread. Yeah. Carcinogenesis.